I'm Karen Hendricks with Celebrate Gettysburg magazine, and I am honored and thrilled to introduce you today to Peter Lukacs, who has become the leading expert on Gettysburg's witness trees. Thanks so much, Peter, for joining us today. And
Hey, Karen.
can you start by explaining to people, in case they don't know, what a Gettysburg witness tree is?
Sure. Witness trees are trees that are very old. In fact, they're so old that they were standing here at the Battle of Gettysburg when it took place on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 1863. And these are trees that have experienced at that time the soldiers running around amongst them, maybe hiding behind them, resting underneath them. These are trees that, for the ones that I like to talk about, were already fairly mature trees, and they've managed to survive 160 years of storms, bad weather, wind, park managers cutting them down perhaps once in a while when they get in the way, and they stand still here today. And you can see in the background behind us these large trees that you see behind me. These are old white oak trees. They're probably all about 200 plus years old. These trees appear in turn of the 19th and 20th, or I should say turn of the 20th century photographs, and you can match up those trees today by taking a modern photograph that recreates that old photograph, and you line them up and you say, yep, that's the same tree. And they're already pretty large in 1900 or 1905 or 1895, whenever the photograph was taken. And you can calculate how old those trees are by comparing the photographs, looking at the growth rates, and estimating the age. And so these trees have survived for 200 years here and survived the Battle of Gettysburg.
So they witnessed the battle. They're about, give or take, 200 years old. And you referenced that we are surrounded by about 4 witness trees. You can hopefully kind of clearly see them in the background here for the shot that we've set up for you today. So Peter, can you kind of explain and set the scene for folks as to exactly where we are right now on the Gettysburg battlefield?
So we're on Culp's Hill, Upper Culp's Hill primarily, and many of you who've been here, if you've driven the auto tour, you've driven up Culp's Hill all the way to the summit, which is just on the other side of our camera there, and at the summit is where the observation tower is on Culp's Hill. So that would probably be the landmark that most people would be familiar with. And we're, I don't know, a few hundred yards just south of that. So we're on Upper Culp's Hill, and we're looking down Slocum Avenue. If you keep going down that way, which you can't do in a car because the traffic goes this way, you'll reach Spangler Spring, maybe a half a mile down.
Well, we really dive into this subject of Gettysburg witness trees in our current magazine. That is our current issue of July-August, with the story Silent Witnesses. Silent Witnesses. So this video today really adds on to this article that is published. And since we interviewed you for this story, Peter, I understand you have had a very exciting milestone reached, and that is your first guidebook has been published so that people can take it out and actually match up some of the pictures that you've talked about and experience and track down some of these witness trees on their own. So what has the book publishing avenue been like? How's the book received? What does it feel like to have this in your hands right now?
It's very exciting because I've been working on this project for 2 years, taking many, many photographs, creating those then and now composites of the old turn of the 20th century photograph and creating a matching photograph and identifying all these trees. As I had talked with you earlier, Karen, about what do I do with all this information? And I do have a website, www.gettysburgwitnesstrees.com, but I wanted something more permanent, and you really can't look at a website as you're walking around the battlefield. So it was time to create a book, and this is the first field guide of what will be 4 books that cover different parts of the battlefield. This book here covers Seminary Ridge and Cemetery Ridge and Herbst Woods. That's to say Pickett's charge and then the first day's battle on the northwest part of the battlefield. And what makes this field guide great, I think, is that you can open up to any page, There's a map on how to find the trees. There's a written description of how to find the trees. You have the before and, I should say, the then and now photographs that allow you to go stand there and stand in exactly the same place as William Tipton or one of the other photographers who were around in the early 20th century were taking photographs of the battlefield, exactly where they were standing. And you can see exactly how the tree looked then and how it looks now. And it is a true field guide in that, while with the beautiful photographs and the lovely design, that you can enjoy just sitting at home in your comfortable chair reading. It's really intended for you to grab this when you go out onto the battlefield next time and walk around and find those trees and be really the first people ever since the battle was fought who look for the witness trees here, where you can actually stand next to a tree and say, you know what, maybe my ancestor was very close to this tree. Maybe my great-great-great-grandfather might have shot from behind this tree or rested here. And the witness trees, Karen, are really emotional for a lot of people. They're true living links, the only living links left to the battle itself. It connects both nature and the human element, right? The people that were here, and the man-made part of the park with all of the monuments. And you throw all that together and it comes together in the trees. And people love the trees, and so I'm hoping that these field guides will make people's visits to the park that much richer.
You know, it is amazing to think of these witness trees as living witnesses to the battle. And, you know, it also brings this concept to mind that the battlefield is a living and breathing thing, as much as we have preserved it. And you and I just witnessed that not kidding, a minute before we started taping this video. We heard what initially I thought were gunshots, but this crashing sound. And Peter immediately said that a tree has fallen in the battle, on the battlefield, and we scrambled down and tried to see which one it was. We couldn't quite tell, but wasn't that an amazing moment?
Like you said, the battlefield is living. It's always changing. Obviously, it's covered with plants, grass, trees, undergrowth, and everything's always growing, dying, changing. Branches are constantly falling down. In fact, earlier this year, I pointed out to you, Karen, the monument that you guys can see in the screen, I should say that's the monument behind me to the 78th and 102nd New York. Directly behind it is a very large, probably 225 to 250-year-old tree, and that tree had lost a major branch in the windstorms here just a couple of months ago. So they're always changing, and that's why it's important to come see these as soon as you can, because those trees aren't going to be around forever, Karen.
Yeah. Well, this project, Peter, has certainly overtaken your life. And in the article, in the magazine, you refer to this as a legacy project. I guess I'd ask you, Peter, what kind of advice would you have for our viewers, for our readers, anyone else who may be on the brink of a legacy project in their own life?
Well, it's for me, I think what was important was to try to find something that I could fall in love with as a project that no one else had done. I think that was the most important part of it, because it drove me to do the best that I could with it, not to, take half measures, not to be satisfied with just, yeah, I think this is a tree. No, I needed to do my math calculations, and because if I'm not doing this, then no one else is. And so I wanted to make sure that what I'm doing is something that when I leave it behind, people will look at it and say, this is new, this is awesome, I can learn from this. And I think somebody else who wants to do a project that's similar to this, call it a legacy project, is if it's something that no one's done before, or an activity, or a field of study, even if it's something that someone's done before, do it better than everybody else has. Right? Make sure you do the best that you can do, and if you can include new material or be better than everybody else who came before you, Maybe if you're a researcher, you have access to documents that have come to light that nobody knew about before. You always want to add to what's there already, and I think that's the key there, because then people will appreciate it.
You make it sound easy, but I know it's really difficult and challenging. So thank you for all that you have done to bring Gettysburg witness trees to light, and wishing you all the best with your book.
Thank you, Karen, very much. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed talking with you here.
Thanks so much for joining us today for Celebrate Gettysburg magazine. I'm Karen Hendrick.